Everything changed in a matter of seconds. You know, the National Football League demands absolutely everything from its players. It extracts a physical and mental toll that's honestly almost incomprehensible to the outside world. I mean, we're talking about players enduring shattered ribs, torn ligaments, and endless hours submerged in ice baths, literally just to survive from one Sunday to the next. But here's the thing. The physical violence? That's only half the battle. The financial violence can be just as unforgiving. The NFL is this crazy landscape where legends are built and dismantled with terrifying speed. One moment you're the undisputed future of a franchise, hoisting rookie hardware and wearing the crown of a total savior. The next, you're a $60 million question mark staring down a front office that has suddenly gone incredibly cold. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down one of the most intense, high-stakes contract standoffs in modern football history. Okay, let's dive into this explainer. But real quick, before we cross the line of scrimmage, I need you to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment your thoughts down below. Support the channel by becoming a channel member, because it truly helps us bring these deep, cinematic dives right to your screen. And if you want to catch every single minute detail of this breakdown, make sure to turn on those animated subtitles for this explainer. You are definitely not going to want to miss a single word of this, because the tension right now is absolute.
So I want you to just sit with this massive question for a second. Is a franchise savior truly worth a $60 million gamble? $60 million a year. Notice the sheer weight of the word gamble here, because in the strict hard-capped economy of the NFL, that money doesn't just magically appear out of thin air, right? It has to be taken from somewhere else. If you pay one man $60 million annually, you are making a conscious decision to bleed the rest of your roster dry. It means you can no longer afford to pay a premium all-pro left tackle to protect his blind side. It means your star wide receiver, the one catching all those deep balls, will probably pack his bags in free agency for a better offer. It means your defensive line, the very unit designed to get your quarterback the ball back, gets completely gutted. When you commit that kind of astronomical capital, you aren't just paying a player. You are handing them the absolute keys to the city. You're mortgaging the next decade of your organization's flexibility. And right now, for the Houston Texans, the golden boy who was supposed to be a sure thing is suddenly surrounded by some deep, terrifying shadows.
And that brings us to the summer of 2026. The summer break is ending. Training camps are looming on the horizon. And coming out of Houston, there is nothing but silence. A chilling, deafening silence. To really understand how abnormal this is, you have to look at standard NFL operations. Normally, when a true franchise quarterback is eligible for an extension, the noise is absolutely deafening my march. Agents are strategically leaking contract numbers to insiders like Adam Schefter. There are cryptic social media posts, Instagram unfollows, and high-profile negotiations playing out right in the public eye. By minicamp, the ink is almost always dry, and the press conference is scheduled. But here, there is absolutely no lucrative, multi-year contract extension for quarterback CJ Stroud. Nothing signed, nothing announced. In a league where the top tier gets paid the literal moment they're eligible, this absence of noise is the loudest alarm bell imaginable. The front office isn't rushing, they're waiting, they're watching, they are holding their breath. This isn't just a simple delay. It's a calculated, cold-blooded maneuver by an organization that has suddenly looked at their franchise cornerstone, evaluated the tape, and blinked.
Now this brilliantly illustrates exactly why that chilling silence exists. Regression, a return to a former or less developed state. Right at the start of the 2026 calendar, this dark whisper began to circulate among league executives, analysts, and the deepest insiders of the NFL community. The 2023 Offensive Rookie of the Year had alarmingly regressed. The magic that defined his entrance to the league, the poise, the surgical precision, it began to fracture. Because look, when a young quarterback regresses, it doesn't just happen on the basic stat sheet. It happens in the extreme micro details of his mechanics. You see it when a quarterback drops his eyes to look at the pass rush instead of keeping them downfield. You see it when his feet stop chopping and his base narrows in a muddy pocket. You see it when he hesitates on his first read, letting the ball leave his hand a half-second too late. The processing speed drops, the panic sets in. And for CJ Stroud, this mechanical and mental regression didn't happen in some meaningless October game at 1 p.m. No. It happened under the brightest, most unforgiving lights this sport has to offer.
5. I need you to feel the agonizing weight of this single, stark number. 5. Catastrophic interceptions. In his last 2 playoff games, CJ Stroud threw the ball to the opposing team 5 times. And these weren't just harmless arm punts on 3rd and long, These were tactical breakdowns. Picture the cinematic collapse on national television. A deep out route thrown directly into the teeth of a disguised cover 0 blitz because he just failed to identify the hot read. A linebacker dropping flawlessly into an unseen underneath zone, baiting the young quarterback and jumping the route for a devastating pick. In the playoffs, a single turnover can completely derail a season. It can silence a stadium of 70,000 screaming fans in a heartbeat. It can send grizzled veterans into retirement completely empty-handed. Stroud did it 5 times in 2 games. Imagine the collective gasp of the Houston sideline, the sudden, devastating realization that the defense has flipped the script, the momentum shifting entirely. 5 times, the supposed franchise savior handed the sword directly to the enemy. It was the exact moment that aura of invincibility shattered into a million unrecoverable pieces.
But guys, the nightmare actually gets even worse. Two lost fumbles in those exact same 2 playoff games. That brings the total to 7 devastating turnovers. 7 times the football was willingly or forcefully given away when the entire season was dangling on the line. I want you to visualize the sheer physical violence of an NFL fumble. It's not just a statistical error on a piece of paper, it's a chaotic, car crash-level collision. Imagine a 250-pound edge rusher running a 4.5 40-yard dash, arriving completely unblocked on the quarterback's blind side. The bone-rattling hit, the absolute loss of bodily control, the internal clock of a quarterback completely shattering after taking that kind of punishment. The ball hits the turf, and with it, all the leverage for a multi-million-dollar extension just evaporates into the stadium lights. Compounding 5 interceptions with the physical brutality of 2 lost fumbles paints a picture of a quarterback who is overwhelmed, suffocated, and fundamentally broken by the playoff pressure. This is exactly the turning point where a front office stops drafting a long-term contract and starts desperately drafting contingency plans.
So, the crucial question is, how did the organization respond to this total unraveling? Well, Houston slammed on the brakes, hard. Instead of the mega deal, the lifetime commitment with a massive signing bonus, they opted for the absolute safety net, the 2027 fifth-year option. This right here is the front office ultimatum, and the financial difference is staggering. A long-term extension would mean guaranteeing someone in the neighborhood of $150 to $200 million. The fifth-year option, that's a 1-year, highly controlled legal tether. It's a financial band-aid, not a marriage. By picking up this option, the Texans are legally retaining him, but emotionally and financially, they're keeping him at arm's length. They are essentially looking him in the eye and saying, "We still own your rights, but we no longer trust you with the future of this billion-dollar organization." It's a multi-million-dollar delay tactic. It buys the franchise exactly 1 more year to figure out if that playoff collapse was just a temporary, horrific nightmare or the chilling reality of who CJ Stroud truly is.
But in the interest of absolute truth, we've got to microanalyze the hidden factors here. We can't look at any quarterback in a complete vacuum without observing his environment. Take right tackle Braden, for example. Neck surgery. The violence of the trenches in the NFL is unspeakable. 300-pound men colliding with the force of a small car crash on every single snap. A compromised neck for an offensive tackle means the right side of your offensive line is an absolute liability before the ball is even snapped. Now, Smith is expected back for camp, but this detail paints a grim, terrifying picture of the pocket Stroud has been operating in. He hasn't exactly been standing in a clean, perfectly engineered offensive machine. He's been surviving. He's been dodging defensive ends who run like Olympic sprinters and hit like runaway freight trains. Add to that a completely non-existent run game throughout his pro career, meaning defenses are just teeing off on him every single down. So yeah, the 7 playoff turnovers are catastrophic for sure, but the context surrounding them is absolutely brutal. He has literally been running for his life.
I'm glad it's not my problem. Just let that sink in for a moment. This quote comes directly from ESPN's Bill Barnwell's explosive report. He was speaking to individuals around the league about Stroud's potential trade value. And this was the exact response from an anonymous NFL team executive who already has a quarterback secured under contract. Put yourself in that general manager's chair for a second. Barnwell noted there were 2 reactions. One, yeah, he's still valuable. But the other, a long, heavy pause, a deep sigh over the phone. Because what is that GM truly afraid of? They're terrified of being the person who trades 3 first-round draft picks, hands over $60 million a year, and then watches the player completely fail. I mean, if you make that move and it goes wrong, you are fired. Your entire coaching staff is fired. You become the laughingstock of sports media. This quote embodies the deep, dark uncertainty that's paralyzing the league. Executives are looking at the tape, looking at the price tag, and exhaling with sheer relief that they don't have to make this career-ending decision.
Yet, the sheer scale of this story demands proper historical context, because head coaches and general managers, they have way longer memories than panicked fans on social media. Look closely at this elite, incredibly exclusive list. Quarterbacks in NFL history to win a playoff game in each of their first 3 professional seasons. Otto Graham, a legend of the ancient gridiron, playing in leather helmets when the game was practically a completely different sport. Russell Wilson, a modern-day Super Bowl champion who operated with lethal precision. And CJ Stroud. That's it.
That is the entire list in the century-long history of the National Football League. And you have to remember, passing the football is harder today than it has ever been. Modern defenses use incredibly complex skies coverages, simulated pressures, and two high safety shells designed specifically to confuse and destroy young quarterbacks. Despite all of that, despite the 5 picks, despite the fumbles, despite the whispers of regression and a terrifying injured offensive line, Stroud is an absolute anomaly of early career winning. He's a proven victor in the hardest tournament in sports. And this is the paradox that's tearing front offices apart. How on earth do you give up on a quarterback who does something only 2 other men in history have ever done?
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive, terrifying ultimatum facing the entire league. It's the stuff of GM nightmares. Stroud on a rookie deal is an absolute steal. It's the greatest cheat code in professional football. It allows you to build a juggernaut defense, pay elite edge rushers, and stack your roster with high-priced weapons. It's a massive competitive advantage. But Stroud on a contract north of $60 million a year, plus giving up multiple first-round picks in a trade package just to acquire him, that is an astronomical, franchise-altering risk that can send a team straight into the dark ages. If you make that trade, and he truly has regressed, it's apocalyptic. You're strapped with dead cap space, you cannot sign any meaningful free agents, you completely waste the prime years of your defensive stars like Will Anderson Jr. Your franchise is effectively paralyzed for the next 7 years. The proposition of paying a deeply flawed quarterback top-tier money is literally the single most dangerous game played in professional sports today.
Which leads us to the immediate, concrete reality on the ground. Despite all the league-wide noise, despite the extreme hesitation, despite the anonymous executives sighing in relief on the phone, there are 0 indications, absolutely none, that the Houston Texans want to move him ahead of this 2026 campaign. They aren't pulling the ripcord. They aren't cashing out. The silence in the offseason isn't a prelude to some blockbuster summer trade, it's the drawing of a battle line. Imagine the atmosphere in the Houston facility right now. The profound awkwardness of mandatory minicamp, the unspoken elephant in the room when Stroud walks past the GM's office or sits in the quarterback room without a new deal in his pocket. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. They are trapping him in the building, handing him the football, and basically demanding that he figures it out. He is staying in Houston, and the stage is meticulously set for the most intense pressure cooker imaginable.
So welcome to the 2026 campaign. Guys, this is not just another year on the schedule. This is the ultimate prove-it season. It is a harrowing, do-or-die, absolute gauntlet for CJ Stroud. Think about what awaits him. He's going to have to drop back against elite, terrifying pass rushers like Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, knowing that a single mistake could cost him tens of millions of dollars. Every single throw will be heavily dissected. Every minor movement in the pocket will be intensely analyzed by $60 million worth of skepticism. The national media ecosystem is literally waiting for him to fail. Local beat writers will scrutinize his every post-game quote. The general manager will be watching through binoculars from the owner's suite, judging every single decision he makes. If he throws an interception in week 1, the noise will be utterly deafening. He has to silence the skeptics. He has to overcome the inconsistent line. He has to completely reclaim his top-tier status, or he risks tumbling down the brutal hierarchy of NFL quarterbacks, destined to be a journeyman rather than a king. The pressure is completely suffocating.
He hasn't yet truly earned the type of big money deal handed to top-tier quarterbacks. That is the defining heavy verdict of this chaotic offseason. Let's just recap the sheer gravity of this standoff. On one hand, you have a player who achieved a historical anomaly, doing what only Otto Graham and Russell Wilson could do. On the other, you have a player who threw 5 interceptions and lost 2 fumbles when the lights were the absolute brightest. He's absolutely worthy of being an NFL starter, but in the eyes of the executives writing the checks, he is not yet worthy of the crown. The looming season sits on the horizon like a dark, massive storm front ready to completely consume the league. Will the franchise savior break through the chaos, master the pocket, and demand his $60 million fortune? Or will the lingering shadows of those playoff turnovers swallow his future entirely? This story is far from over. Thank you for joining this deep dive on NFL Nexus. Let me know in the comments down below. Knowing everything you know now, would you pay CJ Stroud $60 million right now? See you in the next explainer.